All right, welcome in everyone. We are live. Leeds United, The View. I am hosting for Jeer. Jeer cannot be here tonight. He is in London. He's big time. He is doing work with Fan Analysis as part of a deal with them. He also may be on Sky Sports as well. So that is happening. And he sends his best, and he says that we're all in very good hands. I don't know about that part. Go ahead and do a smash a like on the video if you can. It kicks the algorithm on. This is really judgment day for Leeds United. We've had two windows in this season, and we can really kind of draw conclusions about, I think, the 49ers, the board, and their recruitment efforts in now two windows. We can also say that they've had three winter windows now, this ownership group, and they've done Connor Roberts and Buonanotte, basically. Let's start off with a few quick ways you can support the channel as well. Memberships are huge. There's affiliate links below. And then, of course, we'll get stuck in the comments. With me tonight are Paul from the Leeds Therapy and Andrea, who is our man in Italy. But let's get it started with the context of everything that's been going on. Leeds have been linked with Strand Lawson. Strand Lawson, I think a few days ago, word that he was off to Crystal Palace. Things went, I think, delayed because of a medical on the other end with one of their strikers. But we did not get the Strand Lawson deal over the line. So let's go first to Paul. Paul, what are your thoughts on the window, the inability to get Strand Lawson over the line, which I think we were hopeful for but didn't happen? What do you think?
Right. Okay. Let's be sensible and let's be professional about this. You have to look at the Strand Larson deal as how the club saw it, and they saw it as an opportunity to get a long-term target. It was somebody that came available on the market, would be somebody that they would like. A quote-unquote stretch target, if you like. That money that we were going to put up for him, the 36.3 million, was going to come out of next year's budget. So right. it just shows that, you know, when the opportunity arises, that's the quote-unquote caliber of player, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, he had a good season last season, but this season not too. I've just had a message from Joe. This season not too good, but. I think we kind of pitter-pattered with it for a little bit too long. I think and I'm not saying we wasted time on it. I just think I think we should have moved on after it became abundantly clear that George Mendes was basically fully involved in this deal and was wanting to push him to Crystal Palace because that's where George Mendes was going to make the most of his money out of the deal. Obviously, everybody knows the relationship that Mendes has with Wolves. He gets involved with the transfers. He gets a little bit of a kickback with that. Now, everybody got excited because the Mateta thing suddenly reared its ugly head, and we all thought, oh, this could be interesting. But that never came to light. And we're all kind of sat here going, well, there's been, apart from Buonanotte, there's been no sort of real tangible, strong links that have come through. It's all been sort of hearsay. It's all been people just throwing little bits of information out there, like the Spetzerian Lille. I always pronounce his name wrong, but that came about again this morning, saying that we were trying to work on a deal for him. There's the rumor that we were looking at the kid from Middlesbrough this morning as well. And it's just, for me, it's clip farming more than anything else. And it's been, me personally, I think it's been disappointing because we're in a good position as it stands at this moment in time to stay up. It would have helped the guys a hell of a lot had we been able to bring in maybe another one into the ether for us. It would have helped us. I think it would have given everybody a lift as well. But not only that, you need to look at the comments that Farke made post-Arsenal, and they're very, very telling for me. He definitely is not happy with Perry as his number one goalkeeper. I think that's clear. He wants another goalkeeper. I think that's very, very clear. And the fact that he can't speak on something publicly his words, not mine, says to me that I feel like, and I'm not trying to be negative, Ninny, but there's a little bit of butting of heads, a little bit of tension going on overall. So yeah, I don't think it's been a good January transfer window, and I think it's a very, very potentially silly risk to have to take. That we probably didn't need to take. It wasn't even in that we would need players to come in and would be starters, just players that could come in as cover. Zinchenko, I'm just throwing a name out there, but Zinchenko as a left back who had gone could have come in as left back cover for us because we know that we need it. That type of thing. I just think that sometimes and I think it gets everybody's back up when we hear this. We'll stay awake for every opportunity, and it's just like I'm just all right, boys, but I feel like you're asleep a little bit. So yeah, on that basis, disappointing.
Andrea, what are your thoughts? I think contextually, we recruited all summer for a 4-3-3. We changed to 3 at the back. There's a lot of excess in terms of our, I think, wingers and strikers, especially if Dan James comes back. Now that we are fully, I think, invested in the 3 at the back, 5 at the back system, we now need depth at the center back and full back positions, and even the striker if we're playing up to a striker every match, and they're expected to win headers every single, throughout the match, throughout the game. I think some depth in those positions were required. But what are your thoughts on not only this transfer window, but the Leeds United transfer strategy in general?
Well, Paul said I'm disappointed. Gonna add, I'm very disappointed, to be fair, because you were really spot on, Alex, when you said we're recruiting in the summer for 4-3-3. So when everyone says we made good signings in the summer, yes, but we need to make to contextualize that, to give a little bit of context on that. Those signings were completely improved. They were made for 4-3-3, but they were improved by Farke when he switched to a back 3. Because some of them weren't working properly. And even players, that were already here, like Aronson, for example, they were completely improved in a different formation. But they were signed by Adam Anderson in the summer for a different formation, a 4-3-3. So the struggles that we had in midfield, with, for example, Longstaff, Stark advancing their position and then having difficulties and struggles to track back. How many goals did we concede back then from center runs from the opposition midfielders? But after that, Farke balanced the team with that switch to a 3-5-2, 3-4-3. So right now, we've seen that Farke has worked wonders with this squad after the without the proper backup too, like you said, because we have with Justin injured, for example, on Friday, we'll just have Sam Byram on the bench because Biol is out too. So you just have, for a back 3, usually you have 2 backups as defenders, as centre backs, I mean. So you have, for example, in this case, Bornau, Rodon and Strauch, and you don't have another one because, of course, Biol is injured and Justin is injured too because Justin is all of a sudden the new Stuart Dallas. Okay, that's promising, to see a player capable of acting in different positions, but it's a risk because in the end you're relying on that player to stay fit to cover not one but 2, 3 positions, because he's covered on the right, on the left, and at centre back, in 2 games too. So I'm very disappointed because Farke has worked wonders with the squad. I think that's the only reason we have improved the position in the league, looking at where we started, because we had started well in terms of, newly promoted team, the emotion, the drive to leave an impact. Couple of good games at the start of the season. Then as the intensity grew in the league, we were left behind and we had that bad run, Then after Man City at halftime, actually, Farke changed and it worked. It has worked so far, but now we have injuries, players with problems. You don't have the proper depth. Like you said, every team, it's the most used formation in Italy, that one, 3-5-2, 3-4-3. All teams have 4 backups. Have 2 backups for the wing backs, because it's so requiring and energy draining to play as a wing back. And in the end, it's normal in the second half to drop back because you don't have any energy left. So I expect it, to be fair, target our recruitment team to target a backup center back, a backup left wing back. They targeted an attacking midfielder, right? Because we needed one even when we were playing with a 4-3-3. Now we have switched, it's a good alternative, Buonanotte to Aronson in his position, his free roaming position, But the main worry for us is what happens if DCL gets injured. Mecha already missed a lot of games this season, not as he used to do in Germany with Wolfsburg. But what happens if DCL is injured? Basically, we are completely relying on DCL to score goals for us because Mecha, is a natural backup. But if one of them is injured, you just have Pirot, like at the weekend, as an option, and he cannot work as a 9 in the Premier League. I'm sorry. And I think, Alex, that the situation on Pirot is completely connected to the situation of Strand Larsen, honestly, and not just Strand Larsen, but also another striker, because in the end, there's also Okafor, there's also other players who can play second striker. So with Pirot convinced and focused on staying at Leeds despite not having opportunities, I think that helped in not helping us in bringing in another player. So I'm honestly very disappointed, to be fair.
Yeah, we're thin. We're very thin. There's rumors going around tonight that DCL is got a thigh strain. We take that with a little bit of salt. That is on the message boards, or as I like to call it, the dark web. But then, if Mecha can't play, you have to completely change your system because Pirot just is not. He's not somebody that you can really hoof it up to against a Premier League center back and expect him to win headers and hold the ball up. He's a 9.5. I mean, he wears the 10. I think he views himself as a 10. And he's very good at passing the ball. He's a marksman, I think, in and around the box when he gets space. But, you have to go back to that 4 at the back system or try to play through the midfield, which is just there's a lot of risk. You start to get picked off. And this league, I feel like, is such a transition league. Paul, let's go back to you. Do you think that we should have gone beyond our initial bid for Strand Larsen? I mean, I feel like there's a theme in terms of Leeds United. Paxiao was one over the summer where we were hard and firm on a number. I think we went over a little bit, but we don't really. If it's that extra 4 or 5 million to go and get a player and quote unquote overpay, we don't seem to do it. Do you think we should have gone higher on Strand Larsen? What were your thoughts? No,
I don't even think he was worth what we were putting up for him anyways. But this is a personal opinion. This isn't like me trying to be, I'm an expert or anything like that. Yes, he's had a poor season this season. I would fully take on board the fact that his immediate supply line has been ripped from underneath him, but he's not played that much either. They are in a downward trajectory. They are getting relegated. They are pretty much as near as making a difference. They're now basically getting ready for life in the Championship. So they're selling and trying to bring as much money in as humanly possible. If the issue that you've got is Palace can swoop in with their, the money that they've got, they're in a better PSR position than what we are. Like I said, that money for Strand Larsen, if had it been successful, would have come out of next season's budget. And I understand wanting to buy Strand Larsen. It's not me saying I don't think he's a good player, but I think, Mateta was, stress the word was, going to AC Milan for, what was it, 25 million, I think it was?
Yeah, euros.
Yeah, 25 million euros he was going to AC Milan for. So you're paying Premier League tax for a player in January. And this is where I have some sympathy with the board in terms of players and stuff, that what you will tend to find in January is that players that you might particularly want are very much overvalued in terms of what their worth is. I think the fact that we offered 36 plus 3 was incredible. Personally, I thought it was too much for the player, but if it had gotten the deal over the line, listen, I would love to have him here as another option. He is, when he's getting the service, he's a good player. But for me, left-back cover was quite important, I think, this year. And we've not managed to do that, but goalkeeper cover was quite important. And then you look at it, and we have to use the Forest example because they are one of our close rivals this season. 2.5 million has gotten Forest. Is it Nesta and Ortega?
Yeah.
2.5 million pounds has got those two players, which is
Brilliant business.
Brilliant business. You can't. So you have to kind of question what's happening in the background, what's going on, and this is where I mean that I think I do think that there's an issue between Farke and the board. It just from the things that he's saying and not saying, and just from the way things seem to be turning out. And I'll put it out there now. I don't mind saying it. This is a complete speculation thing to say, but I'm going to say it. If we survive this season and we're in the Premier League, I don't think Farke's here next season. I think he's gone.
I don't know. It's tough to read the tea leaves with Farke and the board. There should be friction there in a good way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if the director, sporting director, Underwood is supposedly does not, Farke does not report to him and he does not report to Farke. They both directly report to the board as equals, and Underwood views his job as supporting Daniel. I understand. Let's toe the company line. Let's start to kind of go through the logic of what they're saying. Daniel Farke, anytime that there's a transfer, talks about how it has to be the right player. Can't just be any player. Has to be the right player. And I do credit Forest. Whatever you want to say about Forest is that they're exceptional at recruiting. They're getting some good players. Yes, they're playing in Europe, but they've done well at recruiting. Now, obviously, is there synergy between the manager, Nuno, who's left, and then, now they're on their third manager with Sean Dyche. No, there's not synergy between the man. There's kind of like, we're going to buy players and you're going to coach the team. So look, they want Daniel Farke to be comfortable with the squad build. Again, I just think everything changed at Man City halftime. Now your system is no longer 4 at the back. You're playing with 3 at the back, and so your defenders become much more important. And then the players that are at the top, that are getting you up the pitch, that are allowing you to quote unquote express yourself, have become a lot more important. And you've always been fairly comfortable in midfield in terms of the depth and quality that you had and you've recruited over there. Where their logic falls short is they don't seem to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. They're, from an outsider perspective, they have their targets, and if they don't get their targets, then there's no plan B. And that's where it's concerning. And then the other part that's concerning for me as a fan is that their inability to sell players that are dead weight. The players that are Jack Harrison, it takes, he goes kicking and screaming. Meslier sits like this and says, no, I'm staying. Thank you very much. I'm going to collect my paycheck. And, we can't seem to move these players on. Perot is the latest one who, there is a 1 in and 1 out policy based on PSR and our current squad being filled out. And Perot says, I want to play Premier League football, which again, I understand. It's kind of like, I can't remember the Buendia. Well, it was like Buendia when we wanted to recruit him down in the championship. He's like, I'm done. I've had my time in the championship. I get it a little bit from that perspective, but top clubs just find ways to kind of move some of these players on, and then, or they stay there and they sit, and then unfortunately they're unhappy in their 3rd or 4th choice. Are we in that position? Maybe not, but I do agree with what you said, Paul. I think the managerial position will be examined again in the summer, and I think Farke has done a tremendous job. He's adapted, which is something that we didn't think was possible. But I think it can be a lot more comfortable. I'm as a Leeds fan and as a newer Leeds fan, I came in during the Gary Monk era. I don't love the phrases, Dr. Leeds. I get it. I can chuckle at it. I don't like, we do it the hard way. So, this is Leeds. We do it the hard way. Again, I understand we can have tongue in cheek about it, but there's got to be ways where we can start to do this easier. And I think hopefully the investment in the 49ers start to understand this. But, Andrea, what do you think about, how are you judging the board in terms of their recruitment efforts? Are you more questioning Adam Underwood at this moment, or are you questioning Daniel Farka a little bit?
I'm definitely questioning more Adam Underwood, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think Farker right now has started to speak more freely, in a certain sense when he speaks in the press conferences, because he knows right now that after the positive run of games, he has the backing of the fans. While in September, he still had a large portion of the fan base that was criticizing him, telling him that he wasn't a Premier League manager, he wasn't going to make it in the Premier League. Then he basically won at least the 90% of fans, over with the positive run of games that we had during late autumn and December and almost the full month of January, So now he knows that he has the backing of the fans. He's starting to get more frustrated openly, because I think he's frustrated behind the scenes. He like he was when he said like last season, when he said, I've asked for a long time for a Rotter replacement, and they knew that we needed a Rotter replacement and didn't get one after the end of the summer transfer window of last season. But absolutely on Underwood, honestly, I feel there's no plan B, to be fair, because you see, for example, Nottingham Forest, they had made an agreement. They have made an agreement with Fiorentina for Robin Gosens, because they needed some backup at left wing back, and left wing back. Gosens refused to go to Nottingham Forest because he wants to stay in Italy. The day after, they got Luca Netz for 2.5. Great business. One of the players that me and Lockie had mentioned, on the scout report, him and Ulrich from Gladbach. So honestly, when we talk about the 40 million on Strand Larsen, honestly, I know that those money was coming from the budget of next season, because eventually they weren't going to spend that money on a striker next season. But it's like spending the money instead of in the summer in the early winter, in the winter transfer window. So it's like a long-term strategy, of course, because then you don't sign a striker in the summer. But honestly, I think there were even other strikers, available at a lesser fee, spending less money and maybe distributing that money. Like I'm talking about 20 million, for example, between a backup centre back, a backup left wing back, and maybe a second striker, because I'm thinking also other players. There's players that are capable of playing both positions. We also need to strengthen when we play the 3-5-2, the players behind DCL, because right now, in the last couple of games, it has emerged again that we are too deep into our own half, because of the fact that our wing backs are forced to stay back. We don't have a player in midfield capable of running the counter in terms of carrying the ball or progressing or running exactly the counter, Then you play with Aronson and DCL. They are isolated. So you also need another second striker, because Okafor has been absolutely underwhelming this season after the first couple of games. It tends to stay wider, and be ineffective completely. So I think it's okay to have a playmaker behind DCL, like Aronson, Buonanotte, for example. I think there's also the option in 3-4-3 to have, for example, Aronson on the left and Buonanotte on the right, or for example, Aronson or Buonanotte on one side and then you have Okafor on the other one. It's more versatile in that sense. But with having like Aronson or Buonanotte behind DCL, you are playing with an attacking midfielder, so you just have one striker in the position, and you keep going for the long ball to DCL as the only solution. But DCL is not an all-that player compared to Mecha. He's an aerial threat, an aerial dual player. He goes for scraps. He go for those type of balls, and he needs, when he eventually gets those headers, he needs a fast player near him. A second striker, and we don't have one. We have one. Okafor been underwhelming completely, this season so far. So I am thinking why they completely focus their on in January after Buonanotte, because also the Buonanotte deal is an interesting one, because it's not a deal that came from Leeds for me. I'm absolutely convinced that it wasn't our deal, honestly. It was more like Buonanotte camp, his agents telling, okay, you're not playing at Chelsea, you're not getting a lot of minutes. We want to move you away from Chelsea because it's hurting your career. Let's call Leeds back. And then Leeds, of course, said yes, For me, it's like that. It's not even a deal brokered by our director of football. It's that sense of working clubs. I've seen multiple times that happening. Like it's been underwhelming for 6 months. Let's try to get back to Leeds because they wanted us in the summer. And that's a good option there. So that being said, the other one is why did they focus so much on a number 9 and specifically Strand Larsen instead of saying, okay, we're not getting him, let's move to another one, maybe a cheaper one, because we've seen other examples this window of players moving for lesser fees, and invest another sum for backups, because backups are not very expensive, because you get a player that is okay being the backup of Gudmundsson and being the backup of, for example, Roda, so I didn't like the strategy at all, it looked like we didn't have any plan B, Yeah, you're muted, Alex.
It's interesting. I think Underwood's 2 windows have been pretty underwhelming. We have to. Underwood's a person that has rose through the ranks. He's known really no other club besides Leeds United. I think that position needs to be evaluated maybe after this window. I mean, you don't have to wait to necessarily change like a manager where their timing's got to be correct. You might want to, I think that it would be good for the 49ers, and they usually do. I mean, any organization has evaluations to evaluate Adam Underwood. I will say they are the 49ers, from my perspective, from what I've seen in America and the 49ers club in San Francisco, they're very loyal. They do a lot of internal promotions. That's how they operate. They've been fairly successful knocking on the door of the championship in America and the Super Bowl, but they have not, overcome that final hurdle. But yeah, I think it's been pretty damning. I mean, if you look at the 49ers, probably what's their best signing, right? And I was thinking about some of the January windows. Rutter came through in a January window. He had the 49ers shirt, but really who did that recruitment? It was probably the regime before. But the 49ers provided the cash. Ampadu would probably be the 49ers, under the 49ers full ownership, probably their best signing, and
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Yeah, Ampadu, definitely.
But Underwood was not the director of football at that time. So, I think now that I start to think about it, it's pretty damning.
Yeah, we had Steinsson. No, I was saying that we had when we signed Ampadu, Steinsson and Amon as the advisor, because I think Ampadu, if I remember correctly, was the first signing that was made during the new ownership, honestly.
Yeah.
After the takeover,
No, he was.
And they got that right. I wanted to just a question popped up into my head for Andrea. You said the 3-5-3, 3-5-2-1, whatever it is very popular, is one of the most popular formations in Italy. Do you think Leeds United could be looking into the Italian leagues as a way to recruit, but there's probably no bridges built yet at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they looked, especially in the summer, because when they signed Biol, of course he was signed for a for a back four, but in the summer when we signed him, I kept saying he doesn't work in a back four. He works in a back three, because Udinese was brilliant in the middle, of a back three, and he's been thriving, for us in the middle in a back three. In a back four, he struggled. I remember at Brighton and Sheffield Wednesday, at the start when he came into the side, but he's really a back three player for me. Even Krstovic, when they tried to sign Krstovic, of course, people in Leeds deny that, but good sources in Italy tell us that Leeds had agreed a deal with Lecce in the summer. But it was the player's choice. It was Krustovic's choice to wait for Roma, Atalanta, one of the Italian sides, playing in Europe. So eventually he waited, and he went to Atalanta. Now he's playing mainly as a sub, but he's scoring goals, especially late goals. But yeah, in Italy it's very popular because in the end it gives you the proper balance. We know that Italian league is not a very intensity league. So you rely a lot on the wing backs making forward runs, taking part in the offense. You have especially it's usually one more conservative center midfielder, like a defensive midfielder, and one more box-to-box one. For example, Inter, when they play with a 3-5-2 with the Thuram and Lautaro up front, they have, of course, Çalhanoğlu as the playmaker, and then they have, for example, Mkhitaryan or Sushi, the more conservative one, like the stack role, and then they have Barella moving all around, free roam role, So yeah, I think there's options in Italy, like when we did the scouting report series with Loki on our podcast. For example, there was Josh Doig at Sassuolo. There was Emanuele Valeria for the left wing back positions. Then even the center midfielders, there was Torsved at Sassuolo. There was, for example, other some who moved from Fiorentina to Bologna. There's options absolutely. Even up front, you have players that worked very well. In a striking partnership, in a striking duo, with a more physical one and a free roaming one, a second striker behind him. So absolutely, it's a good market, especially a cheaper one, because you don't spend a lot of money, in that market. For example, Brentford were trying to sign Cancellieri from Lazio. They had signed Coyote 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, from Fiorentina. Turned out to be a good signing, So there's cheaper loans, out there. There are Nets in the Bundesliga is a good example.
Yeah.
Diogo Leite moving from Union Berlin to Lazio for the same amount of money, It's still not been decided if it's in this window or in June, but yeah, there's certainly good players. The problem is we focus on our focus, Sorry for the repetition, but we focus everything on Strand Larsen without even mentioning the other positions that we need to strengthen for sustainability on the long term. Because again, we're relying on Justin and Justin to stay fit, because it's basically the new Dallas. Okay, if we have a problem on the left, play there. We have a problem in the back three, play there. It's like it's good to see a player versatile, but we're moving him around like a chess pawn. Yeah.
Well, and Justin's is now starting to have some niggles and injuries and stuff like this. You know what? I think a lot of this has to do with Parag. I got to be honest and shoot you both straight. He might have installed Underwood as kind of a yes man because he ate the sports page for breakfast and has dealt with contracts and with the 49ers and agents there. He might a little bit after getting, I guess, his legs under him now with Underwood in the Premier League, kind of backs himself and backs Adam to negotiate these contracts and play hardball, which you can do. That's what he was known for at the 49ers, was playing hardball with a lot of players and agents and getting kind of really team friendly deals. But this isn't the same. It's not the same. You're not in Kansas anymore, I guess you could say. And so I'm starting to question him and whether his ability to install the right people and not just kind of yes people, but a little bit of a team of rivals. You need to have people in the room that disagree and kind of want the best for the club and put their egos aside. Let's talk a little bit about the goalie situation. Gier just retweeted this out from Isaac Johnson, who covers it, I believe, for Leeds Live. But Farka on goalkeeper transfers. Our board knows my feelings on what we should do. I won't speak in public about my opinions. Sadly, I can't answer that honestly. Farka on this was from Adam Pope on transfers. Farka making no comment, but feels the club is ready to pounce if required. Which obviously
we didn't.
We didn't. We haven't pounced on anything. I think of some other like late signings too. Nanto was a late signing, somebody that we thought was actually for a under 21 squad, but what wound up coming in and adding tremendously and still is, I think, an important member of the squad. But yeah, Paul, what are your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation as it stands at Leeds United? What are you feeling about it?
Perry was third choice goalkeeper. We know the two that we wanted before that. One of them wanted to stay in Italy and is now Napoli's number one, and who is a very, very good keeper. I think Perry struggled a little bit to adjust to life in the Premier League. I think it's a lot different than what people expect it to be in terms of the physicality and all of everything else that goes with it as well. We have seen a history of, and listen, I am, not trying to shoot Farke in the foot here, but it's clear we have seen a history of Farke when he doesn't like a player or he's not on with a certain player, he just won't play them. He just literally, they get like one chance where other players seemingly get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chances, i.e. Meslier for argument's sake. If he doesn't like you, then you won't play. It's that simple. I think that we know what Karl Darlow is. He is a backup keeper. He is coming towards the twilight of his career. He's been perfectly stable and perfectly fine. I've got no issues with that whatsoever at all. But we're stuck with Mez as well that we can't sell. We can't seem to sell. He's going to stick it out to make sure that he gets his loyalty bonus at the end of the season. He'll go for a free. He'll get a big signing on bonus that he can take as well. It's a shame that I don't know that just he wasn't not backed, or the first two choices, was it just a case of that we couldn't get them, that we weren't an advantageous enough opportunity for them? Was it just a case of Perry was the only one that was interested in coming to the project at Leeds? We'll never know the true ins and outs of what that actually is. I think there is a good goalkeeper in Perry. I think his issues lie in commanding his box a little bit. I think his issues lie in I think he's probably faced more shots this season than he's ever had to face in his entire life, which obviously is going to have a big bearing on where it is. He's pulled off some absolutely stunning saves this season. I think we can agree on that. But then there are little things like getting beaten at your near post. There are little things like coming out for the equalising goal against Manchester that he just didn't need to come out for. He just needed to let the defenders come across, and he just needed to cut the angle off, and that shot doesn't come off from Kuna. So it's just little things that aren't quite right. And then the pressure being put on him by Farke. For me, it was clear that he wasn't going to be playing in the next game when the little mistakey things were happening, just with what Farke said. And Farke has been very vocal about it as well, in terms of how he feels about it. Like I said, you've got to listen to what Farke says. And sometimes, more importantly, you've got to listen to what he doesn't say. So things like, I can't speak for obvious reasons, and and X, Y, and Z. So I get that. I understand all of that. I just think that, again, it's the recruiting. Who is scouting these players? What type of goalkeeping coach do we have? Do we not have anybody that coaches them on set pieces and how to come for the ball and command your area side of things? I mean, that for the goal that we conceded at the weekend with Darlow, just clear everybody out. Just clear. It doesn't matter if it's your own player. Just if you have to punch him in the back of the head, you punch him in the back of the head. It's that simple. You shouted for the ball, come and claim it, and he didn't come and claim it. And it's a difficult, because he's gonna play Darlow again. He won't put Perry back in goal just yet. I don't see him putting Perry back in goal. I think he's openly said that he wants to take the pressure off of Perry. So we just can't seem to get left back, number 10, goalkeepers. That's what we seem to struggle eminently with those positions constantly, which is just infuriating.
I think he rates his kicking better. I don't like if he's going with him. He does seem to rate distribution. I mean, he's not a goalkeeper coach, Farke.
No,
but he's going to go with I think a player, whoever, the player who is. I think he went with Meslier for so long because he liked Meslier's feet. He just did. He liked the way Meslier was the sweeper keeper and offered himself for the ball a lot towards the back line. He likes that. He liked a lot moving or manipulating them to come out. And when I honestly think when we go back to the keeper, it's not always the fact that we're trying to keep the ball. I think he's trying to manipulate, or the team is trying to manipulate space. Whether that's, I think, always great or beneficial, or we're doing much with the ball, it is up for debate. Andrea, what's your take on the keeper situation?
Well, honestly, I think he didn't want Perry. Sounding by the by the sound of his words, I think he would have preferred different goalkeepers in the end this summer. And it's coming visible, by that quote on the club knows very well what my thoughts are. When he says something like that after the game. The problem is that we cannot take another goalkeeper now. There's no way, because we have already 4 goalkeepers on our books. Perry, Darlow, especially after spending £50 million, in the summer for Perry. I know that Besiktas offered around 10, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So again, now his value has already dropped because he had bad performances, at the start of the season. He wasn't consistent. He had an injury at the start and returned. And I think Darlow was playing well at that time. I'm even thinking, were they forced because of the money they spent to bring Perry back in goal? Because I think Darlow was performing well before that international break. Then after the international break, Perry returned in goal, and he had some good games, had some good saves, like Paul said, but eventually, when I'm thinking about him, I see similarities with Meslier. I'm really disappointed, honestly, because when he signed, I was really happy, because in France, he was very, very good. But again, it comes down to the fact of what you two just said, he faced a completely diverse amount of shots compared to Ligue 1. The intensity and the pressure of his goal, he comes under threat much often compared to Ligue 1. Different intensity, different pressure. It's a transitional game, like you said. So he hasn't adjusted to the Premier League so far. He hasn't adjusted, and he's even stressed, when he's in goal. He speaks too much for me. He's too vocal with his defense. He transfers. Like at Newcastle, it's the perfect example. Every time he made a save, he was celebrating. He was talking to the defenders. Okay, it's good to pump yourself up, in a certain sense, to motivate yourself, but you're also transferring stress to the centre backs. I like a goalkeeper that's vocal, but also like an Oliver Kahn goalkeeper. He was vocal, but also very composed. And I think it transferred a lot of stress. That he made clear mistakes. I remember Newcastle, Aston Villa, Man United, so many. So it was good to change. The problem with Darlow, like you two have said, that it's miscommunication on the goal. He has this yell. They don't communicate. No, neither of one of them shouts at the other saying, "My ball." That's keeper's ball, by the way. So he should shout, "My ball," in order to make his presence aware, make this yell aware of his presence. He doesn't do that. The problem is that, okay, we have a starting keeper on paper, Perry, who his value is dropping, because already look at Besiktas offering 10 million instead of 15. We spent 15, so already dropping. The problem is Farke doesn't like him. We'll have to see, of course, because Farke still has a contract for next season. So we'll have to see what happens in the summer if he doesn't like Perry. Now we'll have to see. I agree with Paul. I think Darlow stays in goal, to be fair, for Forest.
Yeah.
But again, it's a problem because if you don't play him, his value is going to drop again. So you won't have any profit on the investment that you made last summer. And the other problem is even people, mentioning, okay, Ortega was available and Forest got him. James Trafford, maybe alone, there were other keepers available. But the problem is we have Meslier. Meslier is on very good wages because he signed his contract when he was in the Premier League under Victor Orta. Same situation at Jack Harrison. So with Meslier out of contract, he's not finding a solution. He wants to stay till the end of the season. He's happy. He's content with being out of the squad and just, seeing the season out. And it's absolutely, because he's going to turn 26 this season. It's absolutely hurting his career. But in the end, it's even alone, it should help very little, of course, but it should help his career. The problem is that we haven't been able to find a solution for Meslier last summer, but also this winter, because in the end, he's happy to see the season on. Like you two said, probably there's a bonus for avoiding relegation. But yeah, that's the reason for goalkeepers, and that's why we cannot, unless you sell one or loan one out, and that's very unlikely. There was no way to bring in another one, unfortunately.
Right. Let's. I want to talk a little bit about how you would set up for the Forest game Friday, and then and then we'll get stuck into the comments because, again, everyone, it looks like nothing is happening as far as tonight. If something happens,
there's a couple of planes that have landed.
Yeah.
I might as well throw it in and just start the speculation going. Woody on Wacko has been posting a couple of bits and pieces, specifically about there's a couple of planes from London that have landed at the other bits and pieces. So it's just DCL's fine. Thank God for that. Yay! Woo! I told you, whoever started that rumor needs kicking in the nuts. So yeah, there's a couple of planes that have landed, but we are now 12 minutes away from anything happening, and unless a deal sheet's being put together and put in, nothing's going to happen. So yeah, sorry.
It would be a heck of a shock if something were to happen. It's been quiet all day. It's been quiet for the past few days, to be quite honest with you. And it's been a quiet window, unfortunately. I mean, business could have gotten done early. That's all I'll say. Specifically, again, now that you've changed formation, and maybe they don't want to. Again, if I were to make maybe the argument against investing heavily this window, maybe they didn't want to invest in this 3-5-3 or 3-4-3 because they're not going to play it next year, or they don't view it as a long-term formation of the club. I don't know, throwing it out there.
No, I don't disagree with you. It's funny because we're all very emotional about it because we all love the club and we're all very emotionally attached to everything. And what we have to remember is that the owners of the club don't see it the same way as we do. It's a business, and I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, but you sometimes you have to try and be slightly pragmatic in your approach to how you look at things and take a step back a little bit and just sort of say, yeah, to them this is a business, and a business needs to make money, needs to make a profit for them. That's what it needs to do. They are beholden to their investors at the same time as well. And if the prices are severely inflated in January, then unfortunately there's not a lot they can do. Do I agree with it? No. Do I think they're risking our Premier League status? Yes, 100% I do. But the Robbie Evans call to all of the journalists to come to Ellen Road for 10 o'clock on Thursday or whatever it's going to be it's going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah. And I want to add very quickly on what Paul said. You know, if football is business, then I agree with that absolutely, because that's the way they should run a club. But on that mentality, then they should be able to say, Joel Pirot, you have played 208 minutes this season, 1 appearances. You are bottom of the pecking order. We are absolutely indebted to you for what you did in the Championship. You're not part of our plans in the Premier League. If you don't want to leave, we are loaning you out. We're finding a solution for you. Because remember that Pirot is out of contract next season in 2027. So if he's not playing, there's no way we recoup the money that we spent for him 2 years ago. Because he doesn't see him as a Championship player anymore, but the interest was from Coventry, from Ipswich, from Middlesbrough, from basically Championship clubs, So that's the target of clubs that are looking at him right now, Championship clubs. And then they aren't going to spend, I think, what we spent from Swansea 2 years ago right now. So if he doesn't play and stays, it's looking very likely because we have 10 minutes left in the window, But if he stays and doesn't play, his value is going to drop even further. And the problem is that if he's not part of our plans, then you need to sell him next summer before his contract runs out the summer after, 2027. Otherwise, you're going to lose him for absolutely zero, for nothing. So even alone, I know that it doesn't make much sense PSR-wise, because it's not sense. It doesn't have much PSR-wise, but at least imagine like Pirot to Eredivisie, for example, to an Eredivisie club, Azad Alkmaar, PSV, Feyenoord. He has a good spell there, he scored goals. His value starts to pick up again. Then you can sell for a better fee, this summer. So I think that needed to happen, even in the summer when we had Jack Harrison returning, if certain players are not part of your plans or are not functional to the formation you're playing, you need to be business-minded, and be harsh in that sense. So that needed to happen too, in terms of not just running the club, but also being harsh, and not being sentimental towards certain players, in my opinion, of course.
I agree.
Yeah, doing nothing is a absolute risk, and we will see if it pays off. The investment is tied to success. I really believe that everybody's in the same boat, but I also feel at the same time they're really cutting it fine with the lack of recruitment in really in both the windows. We could say probably the bodies that they did get in over the summer probably have all really worked out. I mean, there
Yeah,
hasn't been anyone that is like Okafor is right now is the one that kind of is coming to mind, but he's had some bits I think in the first quarter of the season. Um, even a Bornau who's finally gotten some game time. I mean,
he's
he
been
wasn't terrible against
yeah,
Everton.
he's been fine. He's been
Been
absolutely. When I've
solid.
watched him, he's been solid for me. I think he's been okay. Yeah, everybody took into consideration. Sorry to cut in. So,
You're fine.
everybody took into consideration the Sheffield Wednesday game. But when I've watched him play, I mean, he's huge. He's absolutely gargantuan. He's massive. And when he puts his arms out like this as well, his wingspan is ridiculous. He's got beautiful blonde hair.
NBA.
Yeah. He could be a basketball player, but he is. He's got a beautiful partner as well. So he's just a happy guy. He just looks. He is a decent player. For me, I think it's a tough one because the summer transfer program went really, really well up to a point, and then when we were going for almost like the jewels in the crown, if you like, is when it kind of fell apart a little bit overall. But Gabby Goodmanson, I think, is a 9 out of 10 signing for me. I think Beal, now that he's playing in a back three, is pretty much he's one of my, if not my favourite player this season. I think Longstaff's been absolutely fine. I think Stack is very, very good, but just takes time to sometimes to get into a game. Occasionally, I think DCL has been, I think he has been a revelation, and I think he's kind of almost reinvented himself at Leeds because we've been playing to his strengths. Aronson, where did that come from? But just the signings that we've made, even Justin, where he's had to fill in, he's been dependable, he's been reliable, he's done the right things at the right time. I've been overall happy with everything that I've seen from the players that we've had in. It's just a shame that little bit of stardust that you do need, just hasn't quite been there as yet. And I think maybe that's what they wanted Okafor to be, and he's flattered to deceive a little bit. I think so far this season, he's had moments like with the game against Chelsea when he came on, and he was just ripping it past Cucurella when he came on in the second half, and just looked. I was looking at it thinking, yeah, that looks like the player that we've bought there. That looks like the player that we were expecting to get. And he has his moments, but sometimes it's very few and far between. And it's almost like he's a bit of a luxury player, whereas we can't afford luxury players for us at this moment in time. And I think that's possibly one of the reasons why Pirro hasn't started or been involved in as many games. As good as he is on his touch, as good as he is at his passing and his marksmanship and his deadly. I mean, 6 inches lower against Manchester, and it's 2-1, and we've all fallen in love with him. Do you know what I mean? It just, because there's other facets to his game that he's not doing. That's why he's not playing as much, and that's why I am annoyed that he's dug his heels in so much, because you're just thinking, like Andrea said, that's going to absolutely tear down the value of you as a player, just sitting there and doing nothing. Yeah, we know what you can do and everything, but it just, come on.
Andrea, I wanted to just touch both of you guys on. We got 4 minutes left, and again, I don't think we're going to see anything. But Forest, huge matchup coming up on Friday. I think it's a relegation 6-pointer. I really think it's at home. You have to win this match. How do you set the team up, and how do you see the match unfolding against Forest?
Well, I remember the game at City Ground. We're playing with a different formation, but I remember that with that back four, we really struggled in the middle with intensity, especially when Atkinson came on in that game. But regarding our setup, it's again, like you said, it's a relegation 6-pointer. They signed players, of course. Nets, Luca. We'll see if they sign before the window shuts. Another striker, because they were looking into Mateta too before AC Milan. But honestly, the thing is, I like us to set up again, of course, with the back three because I think it gives us more balance. Especially it pairs well, I think, with their midfielders. Honestly,
Do you put Bornau back in the center, assuming Bijol is still injured? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I'll do like Darlow because I don't think Perry returns on goal. And honestly, I won't put Perry back on goal because Perry was given a lot of opportunities, even when he was making mistakes. So I won't throw Darlow out for mistakes. Unfortunately, that's the situation we're in. We don't have two very reliable goalkeepers right now. But I've been more comfortable with Darlow than Perry, to be fair, this season, if I have to compare the two of them. Then I will have, of course, Rodden on the right centre back, Bornau in the middle, Struck on the left, Bogle on the right wing back. Then a stack Ampadu. I won't play Gruev, honestly, in this game. I will play with a 3-4-3. 3-4-3, yeah. Gudmundsson on left wing back. Then Buonanotte on the right. So you can, of course, cut inside. And Aronson, because we've seen Aronson playing especially at Everton, because against Arsenal, we really struggle to even get grip of the ball, so I'm going to use it as an example, the Everton game, it was going really wide on the left to play a 1v1 situation before moving and off the ball inside, so we'll play with two more attacking playmakers, attacking creators behind DCL. That now we know is fine because Graham Smith put a tweet out shutting down all the rumors going on Waco about DCL being injured. So yeah, that's how I will set up, honestly, because I think one of the differences that we've seen, I'm going to take into account again the second half at Everton, we attracted the pressure, because again,
yes,
Aronson was too wide alone and DCL was isolated up front. He needed to change earlier and bring in Okafor, for example, a player capable of pressing a little bit because they had switched to a back three and nobody was pressing when the ball got to Braithwaite, for example, in the build-up. So I will be more open to having two similar players, two creators that can interchange, that cannot give, references to the opposition because they can interchange, they can switch, they can make runnings in behind, they can go wide. And they can also having two players, more central, more internal in a certain sense, like Aronson and Buonanotte, allows Gudmundsson and Bogle to really progress to the wings, And I think the battle will be decided there eventually, because of course now they have Nico Williams suspended for this game.
Who's
they
the
are
one
signing.
That broke his arm? Who's got the broken arm?
I can't remember now. I can check. Yeah, I can't remember the name, honestly. But yeah, I think it's decided down there. It's decided on the wings, honestly, because they have players capable of progressing from the back too. Gudmundsson, I think, can be a force. I think he was our best player on the City ground. Was the only one because we were too deep into our own half in that game. He was the only one capable of progressing when we recovered the ball and tried to, to give us an offensive threat. We really need that. So I would play with two offensive playmakers behind DCL in order to also allow the wingbacks to contribute more offensively. Another solution can be, of course, Aronson or Buonanotte and Okafor, beside DCL in that sense. But I don't think Okafor deserves to start right now. He's been very underwhelming. Gnonto has shown more drive when he came on. So yeah, we'll go for the double creator behind DCL, to be fair.
Paul, how do you see the Forest game?
It's going to be nervy up until the point that the fans really get behind it. I'm trying to get a ticket for the game, so hopefully it should be all right because I only need to get one. I think I agree with Andrea in terms of the formation and the way that we need to play. It's a must-win game, and when our backs are against the wall a little bit is sometimes when we come out and play the best. Hudson-Odoi is the guy with the broken arm. Thank you. So sometimes we play the best when our backs are against the wall and the pressure's on us a little bit. I think that there'll be a certain number of players. I mean, all of them should be, but there'll be a certain number of players within that team that will be furious with what happened on against Arsenal, and we'll be looking to put right that wrong. It's on a Friday night. It's under the lights. We're a different beast when we're under the lights at Ellen Road. DCL we know is going to be fit, so he's obviously going to start. I think, hang on, let me just check something, because you put on our little group chat a lineup. I'm sure you did. Where was it? And I absolutely 100% agreed with it and said that it was, that I absolutely loved it. Because you had Norte and potentially Aronson behind DCL, which I really like. Now, I could actually see that being Norte and Okafor if he's looking to give Aronson a little bit of a rest overall. I can't stress this enough, Daniel Farker. You cannot start Gruev in this game. Please do not start Gruev in this game. I don't know, whatever the situation is between you and Tanaka, have a little heart-to-heart, have a bit of cake and coffee, and whatever it is that you need to do, Fire Beast on the tables or whatever, make up and let him start the game. Because we need he is the only player that we have got that's got that ability to really push the ball forward for us, to really be the link between between defense, midfield, and attack, and that allows Ampadu to do what he needs to do. But we've just got to win. Simple as that. Yeah. We just have to win. End of story.
Yeah. I think Farker will go for it. I don't know what his formation will be. He'll probably be a little defensive, but again, he came out with a quote and said, "It's not the formation, but it's how you wear it." And we haven't been wearing it well. We've been sitting back, and I don't think we've been pressing enough. Arsenal's a difficult match. Take it with a grain of salt, but that second half at Everton was kind of unfortunately a regression to, I think, some bad habits that we've had, especially in the first pre-Man City, right? Pre-Man City away. He is Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us today. Andrea, thanks, you can find him on Twitter. You can also find him at Lockie. Yep. It's a wonderful tactical show that you guys produce. And Paul with the Leeds Therapy. If you're not subscribed to the Leeds Therapy, you've messed up. You got to go over there, subscribe to the Leeds Therapy, and check out Paul. He's got some great insight about what's going on at Leeds United, and measured responses, which I always appreciate.
I'll send the money soon. Thank you very much. Apparently, Palace, the Strand Larsen deal's been agreed. Palace have agreed a £20 million what's his face thingy deal, McNeil fee. So they've spent some serious money over the January transfer window. Yeah.
Risk. We need to drag. The other thing about winning is we drag other teams in it. That's why I think it's so important. You start to get, I think, near or level on points with Tottenham. You probably, I think you eclipse Crystal Palace. You're away now from Forest, and it doesn't matter what West Ham do against Burnley. That's it. I'm going to end it there. Disappointing window all around. Follow Gier for the we got Buenanotte. I can kind of golf clap that. But follow Gier for all the latest news. I've got the official statement from Gier just to make sure I'm saying it correctly about because I was like, I need a line about where you are. Gier cannot be here tonight. He's doing work for Fan Analysis as part of the deal with them. He may be on Sky Sports as well, although that's probably not happening because we haven't done any business, but maybe he's on call down in London there. Sends his best to all of you and says that we are in good hands. I don't know about the good hands part, but we did our best. On behalf of everyone on the panel, thank you for joining us tonight, and we appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Smash the like on your way out, and please do leave a comment.